Hi everyone! In this video I'm going to explain to you how I created this blurred out background using pan pastels. I also included a slight bokeh background, I think that's how you pronounce it, sorry if I pronounced it wrong, which added a nice effect in the bottom right corner. So let's get into the video. Pan pastels are basically pressed pastel in a pan, and I use these soft tool applicators to apply the pastel onto the paper. These tools come in lots of shapes and sizes. The one I used for this background is basically a sponge on a stick, and you can buy replacement sponge tips for when they get too dirty or worn down and need replacing. There are probably other tools you can use to apply the pan pastels, but these are the ones that I prefer to use. The paper that I'm using is Pastel Mat, by the way, which is the paper that I use for all of my pastel artworks. It grips really well onto the pastel, but is also smooth enough that there's a nice smooth finish at the end with no graininess paper pattern underneath like some pastel paper creates. With pan pastels you can mix colours together really easily like paint. So if you didn't have a green pan pastel, for example, you could mix blue and yellow together to create a green. Here I was mixing a green colour with a light yellowy cream colour as I wanted the green to appear a bit less bright. You can either mix the colours straight onto the paper, or you could mix the colours on a bit of basic printer paper before applying it to your artwork. I use both methods, but in this piece I just mixed the colours straight onto the paper. These pan pastels blend so well together, almost like butter, so it's really easy to create smooth looking backgrounds using these. Sometimes though, if you're trying to subtly blend a dark colour into a lighter colour, it can sometimes be quite difficult. If you're having problems blending your pan pastels together, I highly recommend getting a colourless blender. I will link this in the description below if you're interested in getting one for yourself. The colourless blender is a pan pastel, but it's colourless, obviously, so you can apply it to the pan pastels without adding any additional colour. This is what I used in this background to blend the colours smoothly into one another. Especially when I was blending the brown at the top of the paper into the green, it really helped me to get a smoother finish without getting all the colours really muddy. The brown at the back of the background is representing trees, so I tried to make it subtly look like tree trunks in the distance, but making them really blended out and out of focus. I also added some lighter areas between the brown trunks at the back, which is supposed to show that light is peeking through the trees, and I think it worked out quite well. These blurry backgrounds look great for wildlife art because it makes the animal the focus of the piece. When you look at something up close, the background is not in focus. The focus is on the subject that you're looking at, and in this piece I wanted the focus to be on the badger. I don't usually include backgrounds in my wildlife pieces because I don't really enjoy adding in backgrounds, but using these pan pastels to create a soft blurred out background, it really didn't take me that long. If you don't like creating detailed backgrounds, but you don't want the background to be completely blank, then this sort of background might be a good idea for you to try. This background took me about 20 minutes, which isn't long at all, and the actual badger took me a few hours though, but that's the bit I enjoy drawing the most, so this worked out well for me. You could use pastel pencils to create a blurred out background, and then use the pan pastel colourless blender to blend out the colours, but I just think this would take too long. As I said, I prefer to focus on the animal that I'm drawing rather than the background, so I like a method which takes me the least time possible. You want to make sure that your background overlaps your animal outline slightly, so that you don't get a halo effect around the edge of the animal. When you draw the animal, you can go over the edges of the background slightly, which makes it look more natural and more realistic. Then any stray hairs or fur strokes around the outside of the animal will go onto the background slightly and make it look like the animal is actually there living in its environment, rather than like it just been edited onto a background in Photoshop or something. For this front corner, I just covered the whole of the paper in the green mixed with the yellowy cream colour that I used earlier. As you can see, I'm being really rough and scribbly with this because I'm going to add the bokeh effect on top in a second. I tried creating a bokeh effect before on a previous piece using soft pastel sticks, and it didn't go that well at all. I struggled to blend them together smoothly, and I'm not sure if it was the brand of soft pastel sticks that I used or if I just used the wrong techniques, I'm not sure, but I find it so much easier with the pan pastels as they just blend so well together. To create the bokeh effect here, once the area was completely covered in a base layer, I then used the colourless blender to create small faint circles on top. This was a complete experiment, but it really did work well. The colourless blender is colourless technically, but it does make the pastels a tiny bit lighter when you place it on top, so this worked really well for this effect. I used slightly less of the colourless blender for some circles and slightly more for others so that it looked a little bit more natural. That is all for this video. I know it was a short one, but I thought because I had created this background and filmed it, I might as well make a video explaining how I did it, as some of you might find it useful. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a like and make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on my future videos. I upload a new video every Sunday at 4 PM UK time, and sometimes on a Thursday I upload an extra video if I have managed to film some extra content. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye guys!